Homelessness is a gendered experience. And so by that, I mean that gender, male, female, and the diversity of genders influences, again, the pathways into homelessness, the experiences of homelessness, and exits from homelessness. We've had the opportunity to do some research. For example, we did an evaluation of a Housing First program for women, one of the first in the country, focused specifically on people who were female identified. And in that project, it was so important to hear um, how, again, current systems are really designed in a fairly specific way that is unintentionally exclusionary. And so our current response to homelessness, for example, includes things like prioritization. And so we use tools, usually measures of acuity, to decide who gets access to what particular services. Now, the pathway to getting an assessment for your level of need and what support you're receiving is primarily through shelter and secondarily through street outreach. Now, women experiencing homelessness are far less likely to be accessing emergency shelter and also less likely to be discoverable if they are rough sleeping. So there are obvious safety issues involved with being a woman, cis or trans, living amongst other folks who have high needs, or being it out in public space. So women in homelessness tend to be more hidden, and that's intentional for very obvious reasons. Now, by being hidden, they then have decreased access to being supported into services. And the acuity measures that we use to decide what services people get don't necessarily recognize their situations as severe. And so if the acuity says, how many days have you been accessing emergency shelter? And then that's used as a metric to decide, because someone has to be chronically homeless to get housing for support. And a woman has had other accommodations, then, she might qualify for, say, a housing first program. And so we've designed our system in a lot of ways around white middle-aged men, usually focused on mental health and addictions issues with that population. And so that system has made itself in a way that is unintentionally exclusionary towards women. And so women during their experience, much higher risk around experiences of sexual violence. If in a partnered relationship, for example, with substance use, far more likely to be victimized and criminalized around that substance use. So, for example, the male partner might make her carry the drugs, so that if there is, that she's the one in possession of a substance. So it's issues like that that make women uniquely vulnerable. And in terms of family homelessness, the overwhelming majority of single parents who have custodial access to children entering shelter are women, which mirrors what we see in family poverty as well, where women bear the brunt of child care. And so because of that, women are missed in our system a lot. And our current process don't necessarily meet their needs in an equal and equitable way.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for that. I feel like you just perfectly described my experience of being homeless. So I appreciate all of that.